In an instant, I lose all feeling and movement from my neck down. I'm listening to the players crash into each other above me. The whistle blows, the pile clears off, but I can't get up. So I get in the helicopter, and as soon as that door slams shut, things escalate quickly because I can no longer hear myself breathe over the propellers. I can't. Your future will take care of itself when you take care of today. And that's just something I live by. And it's really something my dad, though, taught me early on. And essentially, he taught me the importance of being radically responsible for your life. And the more responsibility you accept, the better you'll respond to adversity.
Welcome back to another episode of The Burn. I am Ben Newman, and you know, every week we as a team work as hard as we possibly can to bring you amazing stories of athletes, entertainers, entrepreneurs, individuals who have fought through adversity and challenge in their lives, individuals who are connected to that burn that lies inside of them, that fire that ignites their why and their purpose on a daily basis, that then causes them to achieve and to go compete, to be their best every single day with the necessary action that is required to go write a story and make a difference. And talk about writing a story and making a difference. Our guest today is living it every single day. Our guest today, Chris Norton, is a man who has inspired me. And I'm going to share a little bit of this because I think it's important to frame this. So Mindy Patty, who's the wife of Jeremy Patty, who runs our coaching practice. Jeremy's run our full-blown coaching practice for years, and we've been friends for 15 years. I get a DM from her, and she says, "You have got to watch this movie on Netflix, 7 Yards, the Chris Norton story. It's amazing." So I obviously take a recommendation from Mindy, having been friends for all these years, and I download it, and I'm watching it on a flight home, and tears are pouring down my face. And for those of you that know me, you know I'm an emotional dude. I cry when I watch Extreme Home Makeovers. And Chris's story just had me. And it wasn't just you, Chris. It was also his amazing wife, Emily. And I hope in this episode today, you're going to realize that each and every single one of you, you have great capacity in your lives. You have the ability to do and believe in the greatness that lies inside of you, regardless of challenge and adversity that can happen at very extreme and significant levels in our lives. Chris was a freshman football player at Luther College in Iowa. Now, Chris wasn't one of those freshmen who just said, "I'm going to show up and I'm going to do my lifts and I'm going to go to practice." He earned the opportunity to gain playing time. And in a special teams play during one of their football games, Chris ended up having a spinal cord injury. The spinal cord injury resulted in what doctors felt would be his inability to ever walk again, his inability to move anything from the neck down ever again. And I think in today's story, because I'm going to leave this up for him, in today's episode, you're going to hear Chris's story, how he battled, how he's fought, a couple of amazing goals that he had that were 3 years apart, but amazingly significant, that are now an example for all of us, and as well as his family, that you have a choice to connect to your burn and to show up every single day, regardless of your challenge and adversity, and furthermore, to grow from it, to do what you were destined to do in your life. Chris, I told you, brother, you are an inspiration to me. Welcome to The Burn. I couldn't be any more excited to be able to spend this time with you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And that was an amazing introduction. I appreciate that, Ben.
Well, you deserve that introduction because your story is that amazing. And for me, as a speaker, I love people's stories. As a coach, I love people's stories. I love when people rise up through adversity. And so it's amazing what you have done. And now, I mean, one of the most sought after speakers, right? I mean, everybody needs to know, like, if you need an amazing speaker for your event, after you hear Chris's story, it's one of the most sought after speakers in the world today. So make sure that you listen to the power of this story. Chris, I'm going to turn it over to you. I want you to take us, as hard as it is, as tough as it is, take us to that play. You put on your jersey for that game for Luther College, waiting for your opportunity for coach to put you in. Take us back to that moment.
Yeah, in that moment, I'm fired up. I wanted to seize the moment. I want to make this an opportunity to get more playing time. I remember lining up on that far right side, the ball's kicked. I sprint downfield as hard as I possibly can go. I see an opening for me. My instincts tell me that ball carrier, he's going to try running through that gap. But I'm going to stop. I'm going to drive my shoulder so hard through his legs, he's going to drop the ball. And I go for it. I collide with him at full speed, full force, but I mistimed my tackle just by a split second. Instead of getting my head in front of the ball carrier, his knee collided right with the side of my neck. In an instant, I lose all feeling and movement from my neck down. I'm listening to the players crash into each other above me. The whistle blows, the pile clears off, but I can't get up. I'm trying so hard to push off the ground, but nothing is working. Out of the corner of my eye, I can see the defense huddled up. They're ready to take the field. Everyone's waiting on me to just get off the field. I'm feeling embarrassed. I'm telling myself again, Chris, you have to stand up. But no matter how hard I try, I couldn't move. It felt like someone just flipped the power off to my body. And I had no idea at the time that this would be a life altering injury, a spinal cord injury, and my life was about to drastically change.
Chris, in that moment, when you feel like the power's been switched off and you end up essentially getting a medevac, your parents, which in the movie, as a parent, I can't, and you as a parent as well, just the thought and emotion, I could see it in your mother's eyes. I mean, it's just incredible seeing her recant the story of the emotion they went through, having to drive to where you were being medevac to. When you were by yourself in that helicopter, what were you thinking, and when did you start to turn to that belief that has caused you to respond the way that you have?
Well, there's a big moment for me in the helicopter because before getting on the helicopter, I was struggling to breathe. My lungs and my diaphragm were starting to fail me because my injury was so high and severe, it impacted the capacity to bring in air. I let the paramedics know, and they tell me that they could put a breathing tube down my throat to pump in oxygen, but it could cause more damage to my spine. Well, I don't want any more damage, so I decline it, and I tell them, I'll be fine. And they reassure me that the flight crew will be right by my side if I need them. So I get in the helicopter, and as soon as that door slams shut, things escalate quickly because I can no longer hear myself breathe over the propellers. I can't feel or see my chest expand. I just lost all the senses that were reassuring me that I was okay and breathing. And I started wondering, what if I stopped breathing? And over time, I began to panic. It felt like I was drowning. And if I didn't get that breathing tube, I was convinced I was going to die. So my eyes shoot open. I'm mouthing to the paramedic next to me, help me, help me. He can't hear me over the roar of the chopper blades. And not knowing what to do, because my heart is racing, I'm gasping for air. I close my eyes and I visualize myself breathing. I imagine my lungs filling with air and expelling it out, and I just keep counting, just 1, 2, 3, and I keep counting and counting. And eventually I get over 100 breaths in, and I realize, okay, I'm breathing. I'm okay. I'm going to make it to the hospital just fine. I'm not going to die. In this moment, the helicopter was really big for me because I realized just by counting the breaths, it helped prove to myself that I was okay. And it just reminded me that like what you think will come true. Like you go in the direction of your strongest thoughts. And once I shifted my mind to that air I was getting, was when things started to calm down and I started to see optimism and hope and just really settle myself.
What you just said is amazing. You said you go in the direction of your strongest thoughts. And so now that's you on the helicopter questioning, can you live, and choosing to visualize life with these deep breaths, getting your oxygen back. It's incredible, Chris. You get to the hospital, and now you're given this news that there's a 3% chance, not that you would walk again, that you would move your extremities again. What goes through your mind?
Well, first, I'm trying to process that 3%. Again, not a 3% chance to walk, it's a 3% chance to move, to feel, to scratch an itch on your face, to feed yourself. Because yesterday at the time, I was walking, I was suiting up for my college football game. Then all of a sudden, I'm lying there paralyzed from the neck down with a 3% chance to ever move. At first, I'm numb to it, and then I get mad. And I tell myself, no way, not me. This is not going to be my life. I'm going to beat it. I will not be part of that 97% who don't recover from this. I will do whatever it takes to be a member of that 3%. I get going to work doing the only thing I could do, which was to nod my head yes and no. And I just keep nodding my head yes and no for hours. I looked like a giant bobblehead just bouncing my head around. And I was just trying to figure out just what can I do today to get better? Because something I understood was your future will take care of itself when you take care of today. And that's just something I live by. And it's really something my dad, though, taught me early on, because something he told me was, if you don't like where you're at, then do something about it. And essentially, he taught me the importance of being radically responsible for your life. And the more responsibility you accept, the better you'll respond to adversity. And one of the quickest ways that you can become more adept to being responsible for your life is to cut out blame, the need to complain, and all these excuses, because they keep you emotionally stuck. They prevent you from doing all that you can do. Life and people are unfair and unjust, and you can't control the weather, what someone says or does, then you can't waste all your energy on. Blame is just not a good strategy for a meaningful and successful life. And I'm so fortunate that my dad introduced me to this lesson, because that's what it took to respond the way that I did to my injury. So my whole life, I've been gearing up for this moment, and I had no idea.
So for you, Chris, is it fair to say that that burn for you is regardless of the circumstance? Your father mentally conditioned you. You're going to fight through it to stay focused on what you can control. Is that the fire that lies inside of you? You won't take no for an answer?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I just know that it's up to me to where I go in life. Like, what I do today is what's going to determine my success, my happiness. I can't blame my failures or my shortcomings or my unhappiness to my circumstances or on someone or something. I just know that I have to take on that responsibility for myself. And if that means I need to ask for help, I will. If I need to take a step back and evaluate things, I will. I just have this initiative inside of me that I have to figure this out. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to get through it and not be satisfied with anything less than what I'm capable of. And so, yeah, he kind of gave me that burn. Then what also gives me that burn as well is understanding that my example matters. What I do, what I say influences other people, whether you like it or not, whether at your best or your worst. And so when I was going through my injury and we were receiving messages from people who were inspired by my attitude, by my effort, I was caught off by being called an inspiration because I'm thinking I'm not an inspiration. I'm just a normal guy, an 18-year-old, just trying to get my life back. But regardless of the fact, knowing that my example was impacting them, helping them through their own challenges, helped me to keep going. And so when I always consider like who's counting on me, it
Mm.
gives me this extra fire that I didn't know was there. And that's something like um, if you can ask yourself that question, it'll just help you take on more than what you think you can handle.
So speaking of more than you can handle, let me frame this in a strong and a direct way from a position of care to really help some of the individuals who I know right now there's been so much challenge and adversity in the world, and I often reference there are people who are choosing to wait on that proverbial sideline and they don't want to go into the game. And here you were playing a game that you loved, right? You grew up, I remember parts in the movie, you talking about this game of football that you love so much. And now you're told you cannot go into the game again. And so I think there's so many people there waiting and they allow their adversity to overcome them when actually their adversity is not that significant. And I'm not saying that your adversity is more than somebody else's, or it's not a game of comparison. But I want you to really help people understand the power of achieving something that's impossible when you actually have the belief and the ability to tell yourself it is possible. So there are two things that you did which are extraordinary. And I alluded to them earlier. They happened 3 years apart. But not only did they say you would never move your extremities, you made a conscious choice. And I know a lot of this comes, we're going to highlight her because she deserves it. You meet a beautiful young lady on campus at Luther College after your parents, and you wanted to go back to school. You made a conscious choice. I'm going to choose to live my life. And I'm not going to give away the movie, but your friends were amazing. I mean, it's just incredible, the love and support that you had. But you meet this beautiful young lady named Emily Summers, now your wife, and you set a goal that you would walk across the stage for your graduation. And this is where I'm in tears on the plane, seeing you in your cap and gown and you and Emily walking to get your diploma. So for those individuals who are on the sidelines, maybe allowing their adversity to hold them back, tell us your story of your fight to walk across that stage, which then resulted. So I want you to carry this through. You said that walk across the stage was not the only walk. I got another walk. And when you and Emily decided to get engaged, you said, I will walk down the aisle with her after they pronounce us husband and wife. So tell us about those two walks. And I already know this is natural from you from sharing your story all over the world now, but help do it in such a way, if I can ask, to help people and to encourage them to get off that sideline of their life and to get themselves into the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Like setting that goal to walk across the stage is scary because I could barely walk with 3 therapists and a harness and leg braces. Like I needed a ton of assistance, but I just kept visualizing and imagining myself walking across that stage. And it got me excited. And that excitement led to me talking about it and sharing it with my friends, my family, and eventually news outlets were starting to tell the story of my vow to walk across the stage. And it just helped create accountability. And because I'm a man of my word. If I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure I follow through with it. So it just gave me a burn to, I want to walk across the stage. I have to do this. And I also want to inspire people along the way because if you can, live and work for something bigger than yourself, you'll always find that extra gear, that extra motivation to keep going. And so that was another part of my inspiration to do this was to try to help somebody else, encourage them in their own fight to get, in that field and off the sidelines. And so when that day came, I was nervous. I felt like I was going to get sick because I've been training 4.5 years. Thousands of hours have put into this one moment, a 4-yard walk. And there were so many times along those 4.5 years where I asked myself, what am I doing? I'm putting in all this time and commitment, energy into this short walk. Like, what if I don't make it? What if I fall? What if no one cares and I don't accomplish a thing? But I had to keep pushing past that and just keep taking one step in front of the other, even if you don't know where you're going. But something inside me just told me to go for it. And when I got up on that stage and the crowd just erupted in cheers, I knew something special was happening. Now I'm locked in as an athlete, just focusing on one step at a time, trying to tune out the crowd, but you couldn't help but notice the excitement in the room. Then when I looked up and everybody's in tears, I was wondering what happened. Like, did I miss something? Because I had no idea how emotional it was for people. I expected my mom to be crying, but not the entire gym. And then it went on to go viral. 300 million people have seen that. It helped launch my motivational speaking, and I got on all these big talk shows. Then we received thousands of messages from people all around the world of how encouraged they were from this 4-yard walk. And I can remember one in particular, a mom whose daughter was kidnapped. She was kidnapped for 2 years and they found her. But when they got her, she's working through lots of trauma that she endured. And seeing this 4-yard walk, she wrote in a message, has given her hope for her daughter's future, that they can get through it, no matter what you go through. And just hearing messages like that, knowing that you can make an impact on a family that's going through so much, how can you not want to offer more encouragement to them? And so Emily and I knew we had to walk these 7 yards down the aisle of our wedding. And when that day came, again, after thousands of hours of training, I had more peace. My faith has grew. I just knew that at the end of the day, if we tripped and fell, that I still got the girl. And that's what matters most. And no matter what we go through in life, I'll have her as my teammate, my partner, and things are just going to be okay. And so the day just went perfectly. And as you can imagine, that we made those 7 yards.
Well, not only did you make the 7 yards, but those are 7 yards that turned into thousands upon thousands upon thousands of yards of motivation. And if we go back to that, people moving off the sideline, I think to myself, how many people have moved off the sideline because of you? And your humble nature is so attractive. You're and Emily both. I mean, it's just a powerful presence that you have, whether you recognize that. And your fight is amazing. One of the things that I find so amazing about you and Emily, and this is what I want you to share, which is many people would look at what the two of you have been through together and say, okay, let's just relax and let's enjoy this, right? And instead, as newlyweds, you decided to enter the foster world, fostering children, because Emily had this passion and this love for children. And here, all of these hours of getting back to fighting the odds medically with what the doctors told you, you now have the opportunity to pour into 7 children. And so help us better understand your journey and this new burn of having this kids. You talk about being an example. What an amazing example you and Emily are, not just for us, but for those children whose sets of eyes watch you fight every single day to be the best that you can be, to show up for them. So tell us about the fostering of the children and how that came to be. The two of you are amazing, absolutely amazing.
Well, thank you. Well, it came really early on, this idea to foster, earlier than what I ever expected, and honestly, whatever Emily expected, because we're in our little apartment in Florida getting ready for the wedding walk. The wedding walk's about a year away when she received a phone call from Whitley, a 17-year-old who Emily had mentored throughout the past. And she's on the phone crying, begging Emily and I to become foster parents. No one wanted her. She was going to age out of the system or go to juvenile detention. We were kind of her last hope at a life where she felt loved and accepted and special. And so Emily and I talked about it. What if we said yes? Are we ready to be parents? But we also wondered what would happen if we said no. And that idea of what ifs of if we said no and turned her away was too much for us. And so we said yes. We brought her in. She was only 6 and 7 years younger than us. We were her 18th placement. So it was a huge challenge. And I was unsure if I was ready to be a dad. As you can imagine, not only emotionally, but also physically. But, Emily, thankfully, is one of the most bold and wise individuals I ever met. She knew I had love to give. And that's what these kids need. They need a loving, stable home. And then you can really see them flourish. Fostering's been the best thing that we've ever done. And we went into it thinking we're going to be the blessings to these kids, but these kids have been the blessings to us, honestly. And then after Whitley moved out, she was able to graduate high school on time, which was a huge accomplishment. We started opening our home to more kids. It started out as one child, and then Emily pushed us to take on a second child. I thought, that's crazy. There's no way we can handle 2 kids. Like, what are you thinking? But then we were able to do it. And then she pushed for a third, then a fourth, then a fifth, and it just kept growing. So eventually, Emily and I got a call about 4 sisters with 4 months before the wedding walk. And we said yes to the placement of these 4 girls. And these kids, they've been through so much. And as a parent that they're watching you and taking these unconscious notes of how you handle adversity in your own example. And just every day I feel responsible and take pride in knowing that they're both watching and counting on me. And that inspired Emily and I to do whatever it takes to work even harder to show them what love, hope, and courage is all about. And so our family just has kept growing. And within that first year of being married, we adopted all 5 of them. So the 4 sisters and Whitley. And then we're also in the process of trying to adopt a 6th child, a little boy.
It's just, Chris, it is incredible what you and Emily have done and continue to do. It's just remarkable. You are a force for good. I'm going to share something with you that our mutual friend John O'Leary, before we did this interview, and we're catching up, and Chris asked me, where do you live? I said, St. Louis. And he said, John O'Leary? And John and I have been friends for probably 15 years. And John is another one of those individuals that is just a force for good in the world. Many of you know he's been a guest on our show here, The Burn, as well. And Chris, I want to share something with you that I shared with him after I heard John speak for the first time ever. And this is probably going to make me emotional because it goes back to the impact that John has had on my life. John finished, he come off the stage. We had never met. I didn't know who he was until I'd heard him speak that day. And I looked at him and I said, John, you are a gift to the world. And Chris, I would say to you, my friend, are a gift to the world. The manner in which you show up, the manner in which Emily shows up, you guys are a gift to the world. And I look forward to continuing to support you in your fight and your journey. There's a quote from the Bible, a verse from the Bible, Timothy 1:18. And I shared this in a book that I wrote about my mom back in 2008. And Timothy 1:18, may we fight the good fight with faith and good conscience. And you and Emily are an example for all of us, just like John O'Leary, of what it means to be a gift in the world, but to fight the good fight, to step into the ring when it's most uncomfortable. And you are just incredible. I want to encourage, before I pass it over to you for some final thoughts, I just for everybody, please share this episode. Please share this episode with somebody that you know that is standing on that sideline questioning, as Chris mentioned earlier, can I put one foot in front of the other? I would love for everybody to familiarize yourself with the Chris Norton Foundation. Familiarize yourself with Chris's speaking that he's doing all over the world. Okay, he makes all the speaking that I do look like I'm not doing any speaking at all. So from the likes of Mark Cuban, Magic Johnson, it's one of the most sought after speakers. Go learn about the story, and please go watch 7 Yards. If you think you've heard the whole story, you have not. Chris, you are a force for good. You are a gift to the world. Please, please share that with Emily as well, because it's both of you. It's a packaged gift. But what final thoughts would you have for our audience? And once again, thank you so much for taking the time to join us for the Burn.
Well, thank you so much for saying all that, Ben. I really appreciate it. And you're a force of good as well. But, for me, I didn't do it alone. I had a team around me. I had people who pushed me along the way. And you can't go through life alone. You can only go so far by yourself. And today we kind of have this society of like this lone wolf mentality, but really, if you really want to realize your potential and exceed expectations, you got to team up with people. You got to get with people who are going to push you, encourage you, love on you. Because for me, I have to depend on people. I can't get up in the morning. I can't go into bed. I can't get food or water without depending on somebody to be there for me and to ask for help. And so I've gotten really comfortable asking for help when I need it. Obviously, I don't want help. I rather do things myself, but there are times when you got to have that courage to be vulnerable, to be willing to, swallow your pride and just show what you don't know, and just ask for that help. And so that'd be my final word too, is understanding that we can't do life alone, and you got to have that person like Emily, those buddies, those friends, a mentor that can encourage you when you get complacent and stuck.
Chris, thank you once again. Thank you for your words. And thank you there for your vulnerability in sharing what it's like for you on a day-to-day basis to have to rely on a team. So if you're paying attention to what Chris is saying, you don't have to do this alone. If you're on that sideline, there are individuals who are willing to step in that ring with you, step on that proverbial field and fight that good fight with you. Chris, thank you again. Please tell Emily and all the kids, thank you for letting us pull you away for some of your time. And thank you for joining us for the Burn. Share this episode, and you on your journey continue to fight the good fight just one day at a time.
Thank you, Ben.